Imagine walking into a crowded department store, screaming at the top of your lungs for help, only to realize that absolutely nobody can see or hear you. You look the clerk directly in the eye, but they look right through you as if you are nothing but thin air. This is the living nightmare of Mary, a young woman who miraculously crawled out of a muddy, deadly river after a horrific car accident. She thinks she cheated death. She thinks she is starting a brand new life in a quiet new town. But a pale, demonic phantom from the afterlife is stalking her from the shadows, and reality itself is beginning to completely erase her existence. Stay tuned, because the final twist in this story will completely change everything you think you know. Our story begins on a sun-drenched afternoon in a small, quiet town. 3 young women are laughing and driving around in a car, enjoying the freedom of the open road. But their joy is short-lived. 2 local mechanics pull up next to them at a red light, revving their engine and challenging the girls to a drag race. The atmosphere instantly shifts from playful to tense. Yielding to pressure, the girls accelerate, and a high-stakes race begins across a massive, dusty bridge. The cars speed up, tires screeching against the asphalt as they push their vehicles to the absolute limit. But the mechanics pull ahead, crowding the girls' car toward the edge. In a flash of absolute panic, the driver loses control. The tires lose their grip, the metal twists, and the car crashes through the wooden railing, plunging straight down into the deep, murky, fast-moving river below. The water violently swallows the car, dragging it down into the dark abyss. Within minutes, a massive crowd gathers on the riverbank. The police arrive, and the local mechanics look on in absolute horror and guilt. But the current is too strong and the water is completely black. Hours pass, and then days. The town begins to lose all hope, assuming that the 3 girls are gone forever, trapped in a watery grave. But on the 3rd day, something completely impossible happens. Farther down the river, a pale figure stumbles out of the thick, muddy water. It is Mary. She is completely soaked, shivering, and covered in mud, but she is breathing. When the police question her, she is in a deep state of shock. She remembers the crash, she remembers the water, but she has absolutely no memory of how she escaped the sunken car or how she managed to survive underwater for 3 entire days. Instead of mourning or seeking psychological help, Mary decides to completely run away from her past. She refuses to talk about the accident and packs her entire life into her car. She accepts a job in a distant city as a professional church organist, hoping that a change of scenery will help her forget the trauma. As she drives across the desolate, empty highways at night, the atmosphere grows incredibly heavy. The radio in her car begins to glitch, static filling the air. Mary tries to tune the dial, but the normal music disappears, replaced by a haunting, eerie organ melody that she has never heard before. Suddenly, the headlights of her car flash against something on the deserted road. Mary gasps and slams on the brakes. Staring directly at her through the windshield is a terrifying, pale-faced man with dark, hollow eyes and a lifeless, demonic smile. She blinks, and in an instant, the man vanishes into thin air. Shaken to her very core, Mary convinces herself it was just a hallucination caused by exhaustion, and she pushes forward into the night. Arriving in the new city, Mary rents a small, mundane room from a strict landlady named Mrs. Thomas. Mary desperately craves normalcy, but her own personality has completely changed since the accident. She has become cold, detached, and completely cynical. She tells her landlady that she doesn't care about making friends, joining the community, or finding romance. She just wants to do her job and be left entirely alone. The next day, Mary drives to the massive, historic church where she will be working. The church is beautiful but intimidating, filled with long, echoing hallways and massive stone pillars. As Mary sits at the grand pipe organ, her fingers fly across the keys. She plays beautifully, but the music feels empty, lacking any real human warmth or soul. The local priest watches her from below, noticing her complete lack of religious faith or emotional connection to the music. To Mary, the church is just a building, and the job is just a paycheck. She is completely dead inside. While driving back to her boarding house later that afternoon, Mary looks out the window and spots a bizarre, massive structure sitting on the edge of the horizon. It is an abandoned Carnival pavilion, sitting lonely on the desolate shores of a salt lake. The structure is decaying, its roller coasters rusted, and its grand ballroom completely empty. For some strange, unexplainable reason, Mary feels a powerful, magnetic pull toward this dark, abandoned place. It's as if the carnival is calling out to her name. When she asks the local priest about it, he warns her to stay away. He tells her that the pavilion was once a place of joy and dancing, but it was shut down years ago and is now nothing but a lawless, dangerous ruin. But Mary cannot shake the feeling that her destiny is tied to that empty ballroom. That night, the nightmare returns with a vengeance. Mary wakes up in the middle of the night, feeling an intense chill in her room. She felt like something was calling her name, so she got out of bed and came outside. When she looked down the stairs, she found the exact same pale-faced man from the highway. He is staring right up at her window, his hollow eyes locked onto hers, his terrifying smile wider than before. Mary panics and runs back into her room. Her loud screams wake up John, a slimy, aggressive young man who rents the room next door. John knocks on her door, pretending to care about her safety, but he is clearly just trying to take advantage of her vulnerability. Mary firmly kicks him out, realizing that the horrors inside her own mind are far more dangerous than anything outside. The next morning, Mary attempts to distract herself by going shopping downtown. She walks into a bright, bustling department store, surrounded by dozens of laughing, chatting people. But as she walks down the aisle, a sudden, suffocating silence drops over the room. The ambient noise of the crowd completely vanishes. Mary turns to a woman standing right next to her and asks for the time, but the woman doesn't even blink. Mary runs up to the store manager, shouting and waving her hands, but he walks right past her as if she is completely invisible.
I believe I'll have you deliver the dress if you don't mind. I did say I'd take it.
Desperate, she runs out of the store and onto the busy city streets. Cars fly past, but they make absolutely no sound. She screams at pedestrians, but nobody turns around. It is as if she has been completely erased from the physical world. Panicking, she runs to a nearby park and splashes cold water from a fountain onto her face. In an instant, the sound rushes back into her ears. The birds are chirping, people are talking, and the world is normal again. A nearby doctor notices her frantic behavior and tries to calm her down, but Mary pushes him away, terrified that she is completely losing her mind. If you are loving this intense psychological mystery and want to see how this terrifying trap ends, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss our daily deep dive recaps. Mary's mental state completely fractures during her next choir rehearsal at the church. As she begins to play the organ for the priest and the choir, her mind wanders. Without realizing it, her hands stop playing the traditional hymns. Instead, she enters a deep, hypnotic trance and begins playing that exact same haunting, disharmonious organ melody from the radio. The music fills the church, sounding dark, demonic, and deeply unholy. The choir stops singing in horror. The priest runs up to the loft, yelling at Mary to stop. As the priest grabs her shoulders to snap her out of the trance, Mary looks down from the loft and sees a horrific vision. The floor of the church is gone. Instead, the pews are filled with dozens of pale, rotting corpses, and standing right in the center of them is the pale-faced man, beckoning her to come down. The priest, furious and deeply disturbed by her blasphemous music, fires Mary on the spot and orders her to leave the church forever. With no job and her mind collapsing, Mary realizes she has nowhere left to run. She agrees to go on a date with John, her next-door neighbor, simply because she is terrified of being alone in the dark. They go to a local bar, and Mary drinks heavily, trying to drown out the visions. John takes her back to the boarding house and tries to make an aggressive move on her, but as Mary looks into the mirror on her wall, she doesn't see John's reflection. Instead, she sees the pale-faced man staring back at her from the glass. She screams and pushes John away. John looks at her like she is completely insane, packs his things, and storms out of the room, leaving Mary completely isolated once again.
I don't want to be left alone!
Mary decides she must face her demons head-on. She drives out to the abandoned Carnival pavilion in the dead of night. She walks into the massive, empty ballroom, her footsteps echoing off the rotting floorboards. Suddenly, the dark, empty pavilion comes to life with a ghastly, supernatural energy. The rusted lights flicker on, casting a sickly green glow over the room. The haunting organ music begins to blast from the sky. Mary looks down from the balcony and sees the ballroom floor filled with dozens of pale, undead phantoms, all dressed in elegant clothes, dancing in slow, grotesque circles. Suddenly, the music stops. Every single dead phantom stops dancing, turns their head, and stares directly up at Mary. Standing at the front of the crowd is the pale man. He points his finger at her, and the army of ghouls begins to sprint up the stairs to capture her. Mary runs for her absolute life. She sprints out of the pavilion and onto the dark, desolate sand dunes of the beach. But no matter how fast she runs, the phantoms are everywhere, rising out of the sand and stepping out from the shadows of the old roller coasters. She stumbles and falls onto the shore, looking up in pure terror as the circle of dead faces closes in around her. The pale man reaches out his cold, dead hand to touch her face, and Mary lets out one final, deafening scream before the screen cuts to absolute black. The next morning, the local police, the doctor, and the priest find Mary's car parked outside the abandoned Carnival pavilion. They walk down to the beach, following her footprints in the sand. But as they look at the tracks, they notice something completely impossible. Mary's footprints walk down into the sand, and then, right in the middle of the open beach, the footprints simply stop. There are no signs of a struggle, no other footprints, and no body. Mary has completely vanished off the face of the earth, leaving absolutely no trace behind. The scene cuts back to the very beginning of our story, 3 days after the initial drag race at the Muddy River Bridge. The police have finally brought in a massive crane to pull the sunken car out of the deep, dark water. The mechanics, the sheriff, and a crowd of somber onlookers watch as the wet, muddy vehicle is slowly lifted onto the riverbank. The sheriff walks up to the car, wipes the thick mud away from the front window, and shines his flashlight inside. The crowd gasps in absolute horror. Inside the front seat of the car are the bodies of the 3 young women. And sitting right there, completely lifeless, cold, and dead, is Mary. She never escaped the river. She never survived the crash. She was dead from the very first second the car hit the water. Her entire journey to the new city, her job at the church, her encounters with the pale man, and her terrifying invisible episodes were nothing but her lost, stubborn soul refusing to accept that her life was already over. The pale man wasn't a demon trying to kill her, he was the Grim Reaper, patiently tracking her down to drag her spirit back to the watery grave where her body belonged. When you refuse to accept reality, the truth will eventually hunt you down. Never run from your past, because the shadows you leave behind will always find a way to catch up. What did you think of this mind-bending twist? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like if this story gave you chills, and don't forget to subscribe for more elite movie breakdowns. See you in the next nightmare.